Here's a look at the NWSL weekend fixtures for match day 6. Washington Spirit is going to be taking on Orlando Pride on Friday. Saturday action includes North Carolina Courage against Seattle Reign, who has been struggling. That's at 7 p.m. on NWSL Plus. Saturday, Utah Royals up against Houston Dash, both struggling sides. We're going to have to tune into that one for that. And again, Chicago Red Stars against Portland Thorns will be on Ion. Portland finally getting a win here. Saturday, San Diego Wave against Bay FC on Ion. I know that we want to talk about all of these matches, and for that, we all picked a match, and I will go first. I don't know why.
I want to hear yours.
All right, here we go.
Jenny.
Louisville against Gotham. We just finished talking about Gotham and how they struggled against Washington Spirit, right? But when we talk about Louisville, they have never lost a game at Gotham. So that was an interesting fact for me. Obviously, only a couple years in the league and whatever it may be, but they are currently unbeaten on the year. So they have a good start here. It would be the longest unbeaten run in club history if they win or draw at Gotham, which is very possible considering how they've been doing this season. And they just come off of a club record of 5 goals in the game, and they had a massive performance. Obviously, Kanu, massive to that. Savannah DeMello serving in those balls, and Ari Borges. In terms of Gotham, they are tied for the second worst start by a reigning champion in NWSL history, which is just a very tough start. We know we're going to talk about all the things that have gone wrong on this Gotham team and what's falling apart there. But they need people to step up. We've seen some good stuff from Esther. We've seen some good stuff from Crystal Dunn. Who else needs to become massive for them is going to come into question. So there's a lot going on here.
Well, they need to start Crystal Dunn.
Yeah, that's
exactly
to start. Yeah. How many times can I say start in one sentence? No, Crystal Dunn needs to be in, I think, for this team to be a little bit more effective. You're missing the leadership of Davidson now. Lynn Williams is still getting her feet back, in my opinion. Still, she looks dangerous, but when you come back from injury, it takes a minute to gel into a team, and especially when your team's not doing great, it's even more difficult. So I think having Crystal Dunn in there, whether she's in the middle, whether she's up top, she needs to be on the pitch.
And for Gotham being back at home at Red Bull, I think that'll help them. They play better in front of their fans. They were on the road in front of a sold-out Audi crowd that was just cheering for Rodman and Sard. Now they're back home in front of their own fans. It's a bit more comfortable. This is a chance now for Gotham to take that next step in their development this year.
Well, you mentioned Tierna Davidson and that new addition to this Gotham side. She did come out with an injury in the last match, so we're unsure whether she's going to be on that injury report or will be available. So that's an important one for their back line. Lisa, let's go over to your match. Angel City against Kansas City, because I know you want to talk about Kansas City. Who doesn't want to talk about Kansas City?
It's so fun. They score so many goals. It's so fun to talk about them. But this is interesting, Jenny, because we are March 26th in the NWSL. 3 weeks ago, these teams already played each other. We're already getting a repeat game. So March 30th, Angel City and Kansas City played. KC beat Angel City 4-2. And Angel City has now developed their game a little bit. They're coming off back-to-back wins. They're understanding that they don't need to possess the ball in order to get wins. They just defeated North Carolina, and they only controlled 37% of possession. So Angel City is actually really comfortable without the ball, which is interesting because Kansas City is also pretty comfortable without the ball. They want to move quickly in transition. They want to get in behind. But for Angel City, it comes down to their midfield trio. If they can get their 2 10s on the ball facing forward, Maggie Doherty-Howard and Rocky Rodriguez, to go at Kansas City's back line, to be able to combine with Angel City's front runners, work the ball around, and get in behind Kansas City, that's going to be the ticket for Angel City. And meanwhile, for the Current, when you've got Chawinga and Vanessa DiBernardo up top, dump them the ball, get in behind. I'm excited to see the foot race between Chawinga and Sarah Gordon, because they are arguably two of the fastest players in the NWSL. And you know that Sarah Gordon's job is going to be defending against Chawinga. Can she keep up with her?
I don't know. That is going to be a fun matchup. But I want to know your score prediction, because these games are ridiculous. And with Kansas City,
so many goals.
How many goals are you? So it was score you're thinking.
It was 4-2 the first time they met, just 3 weeks ago. I still think Kansas City is going to win on the road in LA, which is tough to do. But I think it's going to be 3-2 for Kansas City.
High scoring game.
Again, of course.
Lots of goals when Kansas City is playing. One of the things, though, Angel City lost a couple of players to trades, Amadine Henry to Utah and Paige Nielsen to Houston. So what changes does that make? Obviously, Amadine Henry wasn't getting that much playing time, but Paige Nielsen, on the other hand, on their back line. Let's go ahead and move over to your match, Darian. I know we touched on a little bit earlier on, but Washington Spirit up against Orlando Pride. Barbara Banda Orlando Pride. Is she getting the start here?
I believe she'll get the start. She looked so fit and in form when she came in the last game where she just got, 30 minutes, I believe. So I think she's a player that you can build your team around, and Coach Sepp Hines has been in the media talking about it, how she's here to score goals. She's here to be lethal in the attack. How would you not start her in this match? So her, Ali Watt, Martha up top, Haley Hansen in the middle, I think is really good for Orlando defensively, because I think that's where some people have questions. I don't. I think that Orlando's going to do good. I think they'll be able to handle the speed of Spirit up top. And Spirit, in turn, are going to have to watch the speed of Orlando up top. So it's going to be an open game, in my opinion, and I think it'll be a fun one to watch. Hopefully another high score, maybe not as high as Lisa's.
What do you think?
Angel
Score
City,
prediction
Kansas
for this
City.
one?
I'll say 2-2. I'll say it might end in 2-2.
Okay. You know what? Just because we talked about the breakdown that you just did on the Brilliantly Boring segment and the fact that they were so lethal on the break in terms of Washington Spirit, how does Orlando adjust to that to make sure that that's not something where they're exposed? Well, we have to bring in Sandra Herrera for her match of the weekend, because you're just as much a part of all of this as always. Sandra, I hear you want to talk about San Diego and Bay FC. Give me the lowdown on this game.
I gotta talk about it. I always think back to our interview with Asia Oswala, and when we asked her what she's like looking forward to the most, and she said she's really gonna get into the derbies that we've got going on. So I like the regional angle coming into this one. But I also feel like these are two sides that are entering this next phase of this season, kind of wrapping up 4 games, 5 games apiece to kind of kick things off. And they really want to show who they are for this next stretch. Got San Diego Wave coming off of some struggling moments. They have not been able to find the back of the net. We saw Alex Morgan come out of that game with a bit of an ankle tweak. Who's going to step up? And Bay FC losing Alex Loera doesn't feel like a must-win game, but it does feel like a game where either of these two sides need to make a statement. So I've got my eye on this one. I'm going to tip the scales in favor for San Diego for them being the host and having a little bit of home field advantage.
Sandra, I feel like somehow I'm the one that always asks you about Chicago, as you are now the honorary mayor of Chicago, as we discussed last time. How do you think that Portland is going to be able to handle Mal Swanson, who is flying in form? She leads the Chicago side, and Portland had a win, but still looking a little bit weary because of who they were playing. They were playing Houston, who's bottom of the table and struggling this year. How do they handle Swanson and the attack that Chicago has when she's on the pitch?
It's going to be a tall order for them, but I really feel like this could be a game that comes down to the midfield here. Maybe Thorns are going to take a look at some advantages that they might have in terms of 1v1s, per individual performances that can kind of stand out or maybe kind of overshadow some of Chicago's midfield, because that's what's going to be key. We've seen Chicago kind of embrace kind of sustaining any type of high lines or high press, and obviously having Mal Swanson being able to kind of slingshot and attack, make a 70-yard run and be able to kind of go ahead and convert. So they've got footage of that for sure. They know more than ever that Mal Swanson is back. They've also are going to have to deal with the travel into the Windy City. And playing out in Bridgeview has been a little bit of a difficult place for the Thorns in the past. While they have the winning record, it's always been some pretty tough and competitive matches out on that very, very large and wide pitch. So they absolutely are going to try to take care of things in the midfield. How do you stop Mal Swanson? You make sure she doesn't get the ball. So I won't be surprised if we see Portland with a lot of the ball in this one. And with Sophia Smith kind of getting back on the score sheet, I think this is going to be a fun one to watch, Darian.
I agree, Sandra. This Portland side against Chicago is always a fun matchup. I want to talk about Houston against Utah Royals, because both of these sides are coming off of a tough beating last weekend. Utah lost 5-1 to Louisville, and then Houston lost 4-1 to Portland Thorns. For the Royals, they're making changes. They're bringing in different players. Amadine Henry most likely is available for this side this weekend. But how do the Royals bounce back after a tough loss to take on a Houston side that leaks goals?
Oh my goodness. I swear, you guys are putting me on the spot and setting me up. How are you going to make me talk about these two teams going head to head? It's like, are we getting an early glimpse at a potential wooden spoon battle here? These are two teams that are struggling to kind of really kickstart the early phase of their season here. It's looking like we want to see something. It's like a show me something match between these two sides. So I think what's also really interesting about this one is we've got two teams that were kind of active during the week of that leading up to that transfer deadline. The transfer window kind of shutting, and they both made some moves. So who is going to be available? Which head coach is going to present the tactics that kind of get the better of the other? That's the other thing. We've got two head coaches that we're going to get a battle going head to head, and their first seasons as NWSL professional head coaches. So I think there's going to be a lot of intricate and interesting things within this, but I'm also kind of nervous to see if we just kind of get a little bit of a slugfest here.